Coming up on today's video, crucial injury updates from all 20 Premier League teams, some important chip strategy news, the best Aït-Nouri replacements, and much more. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan and it's time to make those final decisions for Game Week 17. So as always guys, we're going to go through every fixture over the Premier League weekend and have a look at the injury news and some crucial suspension updates as well throughout this video. Guys, if you do appreciate the information we are bringing to you each and every week, make sure you do drop a like on the video, massively appreciated, and do subscribe as well if you don't want to miss a beat. But Aston Villa versus Man City is the first fixture of the game week, and Bailey is back and available for Aston Villa, with Ramsey remaining out. Everyone else, however, is available for the Villa. As for Man City, Ruben Diaz has picked up a muscle injury. He's going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks, so a lengthy spell on the sidelines for him. Akanji and Stones could possibly play, but they're not quite fully fit, having only recently returned to training. Lewis, however, returns following his suspension from Game Week 16. For Brentford, Vandenberg picked up a groin injury in the midweek and is unlikely to play in Game Week 17, but there is still a small possibility. Pinnock also picked up a hamstring injury. He is definitely going to be out. As for Igor, Thiago, De Silva, Henry, Hickey, Jensen and Nunes, they are all still out. Nottingham Forest, Murillo and Yates will have late assessments ahead of this game. Danilo is back in training and Sangare remains out with his hamstring injury. Not too much news coming from Ipswich, but Hurst, Ogbene and Tuanzebe remain out and Delap is suspended for this fixture against Newcastle. Maybe positive news if you do have any Newcastle defenders. As for Newcastle, Pope, Wilson, Lascelles and Kraft are all still out. Botman could be back soon, having played for the under-21s this week, but probably not going to be quite yet. Joelinton will serve a 1-game suspension following yellow card accumulation, and that's pretty much it for that fixture. For West Ham, there is a little problem with one player, but manager Lopetegui refused to reveal who it is. He's a very mysterious manager, is our Lopetegui, but apparently there's a problem with one player. Who knows who it could be? Hopefully it's not anyone too important. Soler is suspended following yellow card accumulation. However, Emerson returns from his suspension that he served last game week. For Brighton, Welbeck is not in the best shape apparently, and he may miss out yet again. Veltman and O'Reilly, however, are back and they're going to be available for this game week. Kadioglu, Hinchelwood and Milner are still out, however. For Crystal Palace, Eze has joined the injury list, but he is going to be back soon. The injury is not significant, but I think that is good news if you own Arsenal defenders. I think that boosts Arsenal's chances of clean sheets this week. Wharton, Chadi Riyad and Franca are still out, and Daniel Munoz will serve a 1-game suspension for this week. He will return in Game Week 18. As for Arsenal, Rice and Calafiori are available to be in the squad this week, and Zinchenko is going to have a late fitness test. For Everton, Sean Dyche says that McNeil is touch and go for this weekend, with Garner and Irakbunam still out. Broja is the other player unavailable for this game week, as he cannot play against parent club Chelsea. As for Chelsea, Badiashile and Fofana are out. James will be back soon. Lavia is still struggling as well. An interesting point on Neto, he returns following suspension, and Madueke actually played the midweek game against Shamrock Rovers, which suggests to me that Neto is going to take the place of Madueke in the starting lineup against Everton this game week. Kukureya, of course, is suspended for Game Week 17. For Fulham, Tete will be out for 8 to 10 game weeks. Well, 8 to 10 weeks minimum. This is actually really big news because it means that Castagna should be nailed on for that right back slot for Fulham. Castagna is only 4.2 million, and although he doesn't have the form of a player like Robinson, he certainly has historical data that backs him up as a really nice attacking fullback. In particular, Castagna beats Robinson when it comes to XG and goal threat, and Robinson will beat Castagna when it comes to assist threat. So Castagna in many ways could be a higher upside pick for the many weeks to come. We've got a decent amount of time for Tete to be out, and therefore Castagna has emerged as a real nice budget defender to go for in your FPL teams. Anderson, by the way, he is fit and ready to play, speaking of those budget defenders, and Andreas is going to be suspended for this game against Southampton. And speaking of Southampton, Walker-Peters has a chance to play this week following his return from injury. Ramsdale and Smallbone, they are still out, but they're going to be back very soon with it within the next week, we're expecting Ramsdale and Smallbone to be available, and Stevens is suspended. For Leicester, they've had a bit of a boost in midfield. Winks is going to return from injury this week, and Samare has now served his suspension, so he is going to be available too. Hermansen will have a late assessment ahead of game week 17. Stalazic has been playing with the under-21, so I wonder if Stalazic could come in and deputise there. Ndidi, Fatawu and Ricardo are all still out forever, and here is still out forever? Well, they seem like they've been out forever, but they are still out. But here's the big news that you guys have probably been waiting for from Wolves, and that is that Cunha has not received a suspension at time of recording. Now, this was not stated in the press conference from new manager Pereira. However, sources inside the club have revealed that there is no suspension yet. Obviously, that could change between now and the game week 17 deadline. Wolves don't play until Sunday. However, right now, I think Cunha is actually good to play, and I certainly would not be making any Cunha transfers at this exact moment. But looking at the press conferences, it did seem like it was almost suggested that Cunha might not be fit as well, which is very, very strange. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but if I had Cunha in my FPL team right now, I would be looking to keep him unless we see any major news that suggests that Cunha is going to be unavailable. His suspension is very likely to come soon, but it might not happen in game week 17, which is very, very good news for owners. Sarabia, he's still out. Ait-Nouri is suspended for one game week. We are going to be talking about those Ait-Nouri replacements later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. For Manchester United, Mazraoui, his injury was nothing serious, apparently. He is going to be available for this week, and Mason Mount is going to be out for a long term following midweek injury. Luke Shaw also remains out for the time being. As for Bournemouth, Evanilson and Semenyo, they both had minor scares last week, but they're going to be absolutely fine to play, judging by the press conference quotes, I suppose. And Araujo, Scott, Senesi, Sinistera and Tavernier are all still out. The big game on Sunday is Spurs versus Liverpool, and Udogie is expected to be available this game week. However, Romero, Van den Ven, Vicario, Odobert and Richarlison, they're all going to be out until the new year. So bad news on these players. Spurs are going to have a lot of key defensive assets missing from the time being. Of course, Ben Davies, he is still unavailable as well. He will be back a little bit sooner, though, we think. Basuma, he's going to return from suspension, however, so Udogie and Basuma are the returnees for Spurs, which is going to provide a little bit of a boost. As for Liverpool, Robertson, he is available after serving his suspension in the Carabao Cup. Jota, Chiesa, McAllister, Elliott and Tsimikas, all of these players have seen minutes over the past week, so they're all expected to be back fully 100% available now, which is really, really good, a really positive boost for Liverpool. Bradley and Konate are still out, but these players are also expected back reasonably soon. But for now, no dice. Konate, he's still not going to be an option for a little bit longer. One further note on Liverpool, we did see Trent Alexander-Arnold play 45 minutes in what was very much a second string Liverpool team. He started the game, played the first half for Liverpool. So I don't know. I do wonder if Trent is playing minutes in these midweek games in second string teams, does that throw his minutes into contention a little bit? I don't know. Don't want to speculate too much, but I thought it was worth noting for the purpose of this video. So let's have a look at some of these odds for the Game Week 17 fixtures. Who do we expect to win in each of these fixtures? This could help us out with our FPL decisions, but it's also really useful if you guys are playing Sleeper and the prize league that I am running for predicting results. If you haven't got involved already, there is a link down in the description. Plenty of games still to play for the December league, and then we're going to move to the January league. So yeah, get involved, win some prizes. You guys are going to love it. But just going through some of these games, I think we can have a look and see that Man City likely to win against Aston Villa. But I don't mind Aston Villa's chances too much here, so I'm going to put that down as a draw. Brentford, decent odds against Forest, but again, that is actually the highest odds of a draw of any game this week, so it might be worth going there. We do have quite a few games in general that look pretty good for, I don't know, going a little bit different. There's not a lot of clear winners, and that's because a lot of of the stronger teams in the Premier League are playing away from home this week. However, I would still back teams like Arsenal and Chelsea to win, so we're going to go that way. Fulham playing at home, we expect them to win. Leicester versus Wolves could be very, very close, both with reasonably new managers. I'm going to put that one down as a draw. And Manchester United, I think we back them to beat Bournemouth, and I'm going to say Liverpool to beat Spurs as well. They're just unstoppable right now. But like I said, guys, if you want to get involved in this league and try and predict the results, we've got a big table going on. There's loads of you guys playing right now, and we're giving away prizes every month. So yeah, no reason to not get involved if you think you can predict better than I guess I am. So yeah, get involved. Link in the description. Now let's look at the clean sheet odds, and if you're looking for clean sheets, well, it's a little tougher this week. There's no teams that are super obvious for clean sheets. The best odds you're going to get is 38% from Fulham and Arsenal, which does suggest that these are the defenders to go for. Chelsea are here as well at 34%, as are Newcastle, 31% against Ipswich. So I think picking a defence full of Fulham, Arsenal and Newcastle players is going to be very, very useful indeed if you're just looking for those clean sheets. Outside of that, Man United and surprisingly Brentford are up here as well. But those teams that are unlikely to keep a clean sheet with FPL relevance, I suppose we've got Liverpool and Forest both down at 20%. So wouldn't be super keen to play those players. Aston Villa 17%. Crystal Palace we know are going to be low. Bournemouth surprisingly low this week as well at 14% chance of a clean sheet. And Spurs playing Liverpool are right at the bottom of this list. They have just a 9% chance of a clean sheet, so would not be going anywhere near their defensive asset in Game Week 17. So we actually have pretty big news in the goal scorer odds, because for once, it's not Haaland at the top. I think the bookmakers have finally caught up to the fact that Haaland and Man City aren't performing particularly well. But there is one man taking that top spot, and I know a lot of you guys are looking for a captain for Game Week 17. Maybe you're still undecided. Salah, way out on top here, ahead of some of the other captain options, such as Palmer, or at least the other premium options. 0.7 projected goals for this game against Spurs, which is really nice, really high. Alexander Isak very close behind him, 0.69 projected goals. And how about Raul Jimenez? If he starts, this is a great opportunity against Southampton at home. Southampton at home is always a great opportunity, of course. Haaland and Palmer come in next. They're still reasonably high for their projected goals. And after that, we see Højlund, Jackson and Vardy before we see a lot of players slightly lower. So these are the players with the best projected goals for Game Week 17. How many of these players do you have in your FPL team of the top 15? I have 6, which I think is pretty good. But can you beat that? Can you do you have more than 6 players in this list of players who have the best chance of scoring goals? Let me know. So I've made a mini tier list. You guys know I love a tier list for the best Aït-Nouri replacement. So here we go. Let's get stuck in. The top picks for me are definitely the Arsenal defenders and the Fulham defenders. If you have a little bit more money to spend, then going for a Gabriel or Timber could be a really nice way of entering the Arsenal defense. I would like to move towards double Arsenal defense if possible. They're just by far the best defence in the Premier League at the moment. But Fulham are a pretty decent defence as well and have some great fixtures coming up, including this week against Southampton. We spoke already that Arsenal and Fulham have the best clean sheet odds for Game Week 17, so get involved. Robinson is obviously brilliant. He's been in great form on that left-hand side of the defence, creating a lot for his teammates. But Castagna at 4.2 million is genuinely an option here. You have a big decision to make if you haven't made the transfer yet. Do you go for the tried and tested Robinson, or do you take a punt on a Castagna with new minutes guaranteed for him? Well, there's definitely some potential there if you can put that 0.6 million to work, because that is the difference in price between the two players here. Castagna for me is the best defensive budget enabler in the game at the moment, and that is new for Game Week 17. Absolutely love him. There are some solid picks here. You could go for Hall. Trent and Van Dijk are okay to go for, but I'm not sure this is the right week to pick them up. And Colwill doesn't really offer too much going forward, but he is at least a solid pick. If you want to take a little bit of a risk on players with worse fixtures and maybe rotation risk there as well, Kirkes and Milenkovic don't have great fixtures, but are in general good picks, so a little risky there. Gusto is a minutes risk player, and Munoz, love him as a pick. I really, really do, but he is suspended for this week, so it doesn't really help you out for Game Week 17. He could still be a worthwhile replacement if you're just trying to play the price changes a little bit, but I think there's a little bit of risk there. I would maybe hold off on any Munoz moves for now. I also made, I guess, a mini buy, sell, keep, avoid here, just for the cheap midfielders, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking about the cheap midfielders and which ones are the best to go for. So I've got all of the popular ones here on the screen that you guys are thinking of transferring in, and I've ordered them by expected points over the past 6 game weeks. So here we go, guys. Cliver is at the top for the best attacking numbers at the moment, but his XG has been heavily inflated by his 3 penalties that he has had during this period, all in one game against Wolves, by the way. So I am going to discount Cliver from this because his numbers are so inflated, but there are some decent numbers outside of that. Saar is actually the second on this list. I know everyone is hyping up Ahmad and Enzo, but Ismaila Sarr at 5.7 million is putting up some really good numbers. He seems to be nailed on for Crystal Palace at the moment. After this Arsenal fixture, he becomes a real contender for a great FPL pick with his fantastic form and great numbers. 5 big chances, over 2 XG, and 1.48 expected assists here as well in the last 6 game weeks. These numbers are mega, considering they don't involve any set pieces. Now, everyone's talking Enzo versus Ahmad, although I do prefer Ahmad as a pick in general because his form looks so good, particularly under Amorim and particularly in all competitions as well. Ahmad would be the G midfielder that I would go for if I was looking for someone right now. But let's not write off Enzo, who is actually technically putting up better numbers than Ahmad because he is giving a bigger assist threat right now. Ahmad has been a little fortunate in the amount of assists that he has gained recently, with 0.47 expected assists and yet 6 assists from 8 key passes. That is pretty crazy. It is a big overperformance, but a lot of these players are overperforming in fairness. Sharda and Iwobi are below them. I know a lot of people want Iwobi, but the numbers aren't really there. He has definitely got FPL points, but the numbers haven't been super high. And Semenyo and Rodgers we see dropping off a little bit. Murphy hasn't really had enough minutes to really judge how good he is as a pick. And Dibbling way out in the bottom. If you do want to go super cheap, then I don't think you're going to get much from Dibbling right now. So there are the cheap midfielders. Let me know which one you are going for. I think I like Ahmad, Enzo and Saar the most. Numbers are backing these players up and they're in great form as well. And there's a couple of decent fixtures in here for these players. I think I might actually pick up Saar, maybe transfer out Rodgers for Saar in a couple of game weeks time. Definitely on the mind. So here is another big piece of news for that we've received in Game Week 17. And that is that Game Week 29, well, the blanks are getting more and more well-defined. We have a much better idea of who is going to have a blank game week in Game Week 29. And this is basically how it's going to work. So, due to the scheduling clashes for the League Cup final, the 2 League Cup finalists will not be able to play in the Premier League in Game Week 29. Now, it depends who makes it through their League Cup semi-final. That is going to decide who blanks in Game Week 29, and we'll find that out in Game Week 25. That is when the semi-final second legs take place. So, these are the possible scenarios. Arsenal versus Newcastle is the first semi-final here. If Arsenal win, then Arsenal and Chelsea will blank in Game Week 29 because Arsenal will be fixture tied, cup tied, there'll be a clash there, and Chelsea are their opponent in that game week, so that fixture will be off. If Newcastle win, however, both Newcastle and Crystal Palace will blank in Game Week 29. So, one of those will blank. Then, the other fixture, Liverpool versus Spurs. If Liverpool win their League Cup semi-final against Spurs, then Liverpool and Aston Villa will blank in 29. If Tottenham win, then Tottenham and Fulham will blank in Game Week 29. So, one of the 2 well, but basically, if you look at the table on the right, one of the two fixtures will blank out of Arsenal and Chelsea and Newcastle and Crystal Palace, and one of the other two fixtures will blank out of Aston Villa and Liverpool and Fulham and Spurs. All of the other fixtures are safe. Bournemouth, Brentford, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich Forest, Leicester, Man United, Man City, Brighton, Southampton, Wolves, fine. They will all play in Game Week 29. So, this is where things get interesting from a chip strategy perspective. If Arsenal and Liverpool both win, and you would probably say that these are the favourites in each of their fixtures, then that is going to mean that Arsenal, Chelsea, Aston Villa and Liverpool will all have blank game weeks in Game Week 29. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's half my team. I'm triple Arsenal, I'm triple Chelsea, I have a Liverpool player, I'm going to have more by the time they have their double game week. I've also got Rodgers from Aston Villa. Maybe some of you guys have even more players from Aston Villa. This could be huge. And if you are missing all of these players for Game Week 29, that opens up Game Week 29 as the perfect free hit week. Because yes, you could try and use transfers to minimize your Arsenal, Chelsea, Villa and Liverpool players for Game Week 29, but why would you want to do that? It doesn't make any sense. These are some of the best FPL assets in the game. You want to have them in the game weeks around Game Week 29, both before and after. So, free hit works perfectly here if Arsenal and Liverpool make it through to the final. And actually, for a free hit, you can make a fairly decent free hit team from the remaining fixtures here. You would have, of course, Man City players against Brighton, maybe a 1 week punt on Haaland, who hasn't really been accessible for many of us recently. You'll have, of course, Southampton versus Wolves, could be some goals in that game there as well. Manchester United play Leicester, so you could go for some of the Manchester United attackers in that fixture. Bournemouth versus Brentford is a fine fixture as well. And if Arsenal and Liverpool make it through, you're also going to get Newcastle and Crystal Palace, Fulham and Spurs for players as well. So there's actually plenty of players to pick from a free hit team, which I think is a little different from last year. Far more options, and we get to keep our Arsenal and Liverpool, Villa and Chelsea players for all of the weeks outside of Game Week 29. Now, of course, I am speculating right now that Arsenal and Liverpool will win, but I think it's worth thinking about right now that Game Week 29 could be the free hit week, in my personal opinion, looking through all of the possibilities and what is going to happen for blanks and doubles coming up. But more on that in future game weeks. You guys know I absolutely love double and blank game weeks, planning and strategizing around these kind of things. So we'll keep you updated every week with what is going on. Let's wrap up this video with a wildcard draft and some of the predicted points. So yeah, first of all, the wildcard draft. I've made this pretty cheap. This costs just 100.8 million. So definitely if you have a higher budget, you can maybe improve this team a little bit. But I like a double Arsenal defense. So we've gone Raya, Gabriel, and then in the defensive positions, I've gone Robinson and Hall, although you could go Castagna instead of Robinson potentially there as well. Palmer, Salah, Saka, and Ahmad make up the midfield with Isak, Raul Jimenez, and Wood as the strikers. On the bench, we've gone for a 3.9 million goalkeeper, Enzo Fernandez, Kirkes, and Munoz. And I really do like the 4-man rotation between Robinson, Hall, Kirkes, and Munoz for 2 slots in your FPL team. It actually works really, really well. So one to consider. But of course, if you do have a little bit more budget, I would think about upgrading one of your forwards, Raul or Wood, up to a Nicholas Jackson, and consider bringing in a Liverpool defender as well if that's possible for you. But this is just a template based on a cheap team value. If you can do better, then of course you absolutely should do better. But I think this works really well as a starting point for building a Game Week 17 wildcard if you are on a wildcard right now, or, you know, even if you just have some free transfers, you want to build towards a team that is going to be very effective for a long time. I would be building towards something a little like this. And finally, those predicted points might be helpful for captaincy decisions. And there's a clear top 3 for me, and that's Palmer, Salah, and Isak. And these are actually the 3 highest predicted points as well, although Haaland and Saka are very close behind Isak. I think it's going to be mostly Palmer, Salah, and Isak that people are captaining this week. But Palmer slightly ahead with these predicted points. Things may change a little bit between now and the deadline as any players are injured or suspended or whatever. As we get new information, these things do adjust from hour to hour. But right now, at time of recording, Palmer highest predicted points. There you go, guys. Interesting stuff indeed. Hopefully you guys have all of Palmer, Salah, and Isak, and you know, you win no matter who you pick as your captain. I'm on Salah personally, but I'm sure you guys will have some different opinions there. Let me know who you are captaining in Gameweek 17 as well. Always keen to hear what you guys are up to. It actually genuinely is interesting to me. But there we go. If you enjoyed this one, do drop a like, subscribe if you are new. Check out the Sleeper Mini League that we are running for predicting the games. Link in the description. Get involved, compete against me and many others in the community. And aside from that, guys, check out another video, and I'll see you later, mates, for a deadline stream tomorrow. See ya. Bye-bye.